And you're probably used to there being so many massive whales throughout these videos that this might disappoint you. However, I am going to end this with 2 whales, and one of these is a very big one. Woof woof! Hey guys, it's me Marcus, aka the Mad Dog, and thank you for tuning in to another video. It's the end of the month and you know that can mean only one thing. It is time for my August 2020 comic book haul. First up, we've got the winner of the competition from last month where I introduced the Mad Dog comic haul competition. And this month the winner was Akuji_the_collector. I'm going to put the post up here. It's a beautiful haul. They've got the Akira box set, Injustice, they've got Berserk, and it's just laid out in a nice way. If you want to know how you can be featured at the beginning of next month's video, wait until the end of the video where I'm going to give some details. So we're starting off with some manga. Remember guys, I am not a manga guy. I don't know why any of this is in my collection. The Facebook was something that I surprised my girlfriend with. I don't think I included this last month, so I'm including it here. It's Witch Hat Atelier, volume 5. She's really enjoying this series so far. I talked about it quite a bit in last month's haul, so if you haven't watched that, remember to check it out. But it's all about magic and sorcery and witches and wizards, and it sounds kind of like the Lord of the Rings too. She's also really enjoying it, so I'd recommend checking it out if that sounds like your kind of thing. The art was done by somebody who actually did a lot of Marvel work, but I can't really recognise it from anything that I've seen, but it's got that familiarity to it. Now, I did a video a few months ago about my first manga, and it was one that I wanted for a really long time, and it was called Project X Challenges Nissin Cup Noodle. It was a series of manga that was based on real life, so it was stories taken from various aspects of the business world, and it just adapted it, so it's all based on a true story, but it had quite a manga tone to it. I didn't realise that that was part of a series, so my girlfriend managed to find me one of the other books in it, which is Project X 240Z, which is about the first time that Japan tried to create their own supercar so that you can win all these races and stuff like that. And obviously nowadays Japan's quite a big name when it comes to race cars, so it's going to be really interesting to read this, to see like the formations of that. I really enjoyed Cup Noodle book that I read, so I've got high hopes for this one as well. It is quite out of print, so I'm not really sure how she managed to find it for me, but I'm just really glad that she did, so thank you. But I didn't realise that it was part of a trilogy, so she also got me the last one, which is about 7-Eleven. Now, I'm from the UK, we don't really have 7-Eleven, we've got Premier stores. I'm not sure if anybody knows what that is outside of the UK, but obviously I know of 7-Eleven, and I thought it was an American company at first, so I'm going to be really interested in reading this to see what the story of that is, to see how it got off the ground and how it became this kind of international brand. Again, this one's out of print as well, so I'm not sure how she managed to find me this one, but again, I'm just really grateful, so thank you. I'm glad I managed to complete the set of these, because this is my one guilty pleasure as someone who's clearly definitely really not a manga guy. And the final manga that I brought for this month was Berserk Deluxe Edition Volume 3. Now obviously you know I've got 1 and 2, I'm committed to buying this series, everybody raves about it. I am waiting until there's a few more volumes out before I jump into it, because everybody says it's really addictive, and I've seen people jumping into like the single volumes of it. I'm not really about that life. I do like to stick to one format, so I'm waiting for more of these, but I'm willing to commit to it. It does look like something that I'd enjoy. I love the art, I love the massive swords, and it sounds really dark. But at the moment I'm buying one of these a month just so that I can keep on track of it, because if it gets to a stage where there's like 14 or so like that, I probably won't end up jumping into it, so it's better that I pace myself with it, and that's why Volume 3 is entering the dog pound this month. Next up, we've got some independent books, and the only paperbacks that are going to be entering the dog pound this month that aren't manga are these 2 volumes of The Walking Dead. So I've got volumes 30 and volumes 31. Now these were actually a leaving gift that my friend Josh gave me. He's gone away to Malta, and I'm not afraid to admit it here, I miss him, and admittedly we were going to have a fight the day after he left, but he left the day before, so admittedly I'm not really too sure about like the international boxing rules, but I think that pretty much means I win. But still, he wanted to surprise me and get me books that I didn't actually have on my shelf. It was really difficult for him to do so. He had to like watch my room tour and figure out what was missing. So he got me these 2 volumes of The Walking Dead, and I'm really happy because I really just finally want to complete my paperback run of The Walking Dead. However, The Walking Dead's got a very special place in my heart. I did meet Charlie Adlard. He did sketch me Tyrese with the hammer back when I was about 15 or something like that, and it's a series that I'm always going to love. I'm always going to keep my paperbacks on my shelf. So I have, because literally one person on this channel suggested me to do it, I think it was SCC, I decided to jump in and buy the deluxe edition of The Walking Dead. This one's volume 14, so I'm kind of filling in the gaps, half hardcover, half paperback, whilst I'm slowly building up my collection of The Walking Dead, because I do want to do a read through for Halloween. It's something that I've read up to I think about issue 120, but then I was waiting for it to just, you know, get a bit more ahead of itself, so I haven't read it in a while, but now that it's completed, I'm ready to read it all. But the reason why I upgraded to the oversized hardcovers was because I wanted to, and also because the Alien and the He is Negan, I believe, are going to be in the same oversize, so I wanted them all in the same format. And admittedly, I just don't have space for the 8 omnibuses, which are effectively absolute editions. But it's kind of nice that I've got like another passion project that I can continue to collect. I believe The Walking Dead's pretty much always going to be in print, and I hope so now that I've started doing this. One down, 15 to go. Another oversized hardcover that I picked up by Robert Kirkman was the book 1 of Outcast. This was a complete blind buy, except for the fact that I know that I normally like Robert Kirkman's work. But someone that I brought from in the past and that I mentioned in a previous video, he is struggling to pay his vet's bills at the minute and he's selling off a ton of books, and I just wanted to help him out. So this was a book that I'd heard about, but I hadn't heard too much about the plot or anything like that, and there isn't too many volumes of it so far, but I honestly don't know anything about this so far. But to my mate who sold me this, I hope that you managed to pay the vet's bills. If you're still struggling or anything like that, just give me a shout, and thank you for the book. And the last Image book that I brought is kind of to prove my commitment to what I said in Whale Watch. I got East of West, The Apocalypse Year 1. Now, as everybody knows, this is readily available, and Year 3 is coming out in November, but Year 2 has been the anomaly. I've seen it solicited that Year 2 is getting a reprint, so I didn't want it to be the case that Year 1 then goes out of print at the time when 2 and 3 are in print, so I decided to bite the bullet and just buy this now. This is a really nice, thick, oversized hardcover. It doesn't tell you too much about it on the back. I've heard that obviously it's about like what if the apocalypse was in the time of the Wild West, so I'm really excited to read this, and I'm just going to wait for all 3 volumes to come in and then I'm going to start reading it rather than reading volume 1 and then jumping between the others. Next up, we're going to talk about a few Dark Horse books, and you might have seen these in Whale Watch if you've watched that already, but the first one that I brought was the 30th anniversary of the Aliens book. Now, this is the Dark Horse version. Shortly after I brought this, Marvel announced that they're doing their own omnibus of this, but I don't really feel bad about buying this, and if I really enjoy it, and depending on what's collected in that omnibus, I might actually double dip, because I'm not sure if you can see, but this is pretty much absolute edition size, so the omnibus still is going to be missing quite a bit of that detail out, so I'm quite happy that I've got this in my collection. These are stunning books. I don't know why I've slept on these for so long, and from what it sounds like is that they did comic book sequels of certain films back in the 80s, but it was before stuff like Alien 3 and Predator 2 actually came out, so it sounds quite cool. It sounds pretty much the equivalent of fan fiction, so I'm looking forward to getting into this eventually. Obviously, I can tend to panic buy, and I didn't want to buy one and then miss out on the others, so the next book that I brought was the second volume of this. It isn't officially volume 2, it's called Nightmare Asylum and Earth War. I really like how the pages are all coloured in and they've got like some kind of like metallic aspect to them. It's just that attention to detail that I like, so that even though the rights are going to go across to Marvel, they aren't going to reprint it in this kind of quality, so I'm happy that I've got these entering the dog pound. But obviously, as you know, another one that recently came out was the 30th anniversary of Aliens vs Predator. Now, that's just a concept that to me is always going to be fun, even if it might be a bit stupid from time to time. I'm not sure if any of the films are based on this, but I'm glad that I've got it in my collection because it just makes such a nice set together. But as you know, the Alien books are still quite readily in stock. The one that is difficult to get is the last one that I picked up, which is a Predator 30th anniversary edition. I managed to find this on a random website. It was the last one that they had in stock, so admittedly it is a little bit beaten up, but it's still in decent enough condition, and it's just nice to be able to round out that set. Admittedly, and some of you might hate me for this, but I'm more of a Predator guy than I am an Alien guy, so this is the one that really excites me. I'm interested to see what the sequel that they originally envisioned was. But as you know, there is a 5th book in that set, which is the Terminator book, and Terminator is one of my favourite movies of all time. You can probably see I've got some of the figures here, but that's the one that I forgot to buy. So if you're hoping I got the full set, sorry to disappoint you, but maybe next month. Now, we're going to be jumping into the DC comics, and a lot of you might not have seen my Instagram story where I tend to post up a lot of deals, but Zavvi, which is a UK website which is owned by the people who own My Protein, they were doing like a sale on a load of random oversized hardcovers, and one of them was JLA Year 1 the Deluxe Edition. This is something I've heard iFanboy talk about for years. It's written by Mark Waid, who's the artist on this, Brian Augustine and Barry Kitson. I haven't really read too much from them, although I'm interested in Batman Gotham by Gaslight, but this is a book that I just really wanted whilst it was so cheap. It was only £10, so even if I don't like this, that's less than £1 per issue. But it seems to be focused more on the JLA members that aren't Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman. So as you can see from the front cover, you've got Aquaman, Green Lantern, Black Canary, Flash and Martian Manhunter taking front and centre. So I'm excited to have this one in the collection. I'm trying to kind of bolster up the amount of oversized hardcovers that I've got, not just omnibuses. Like, as beautiful as omnibuses are, I think the kind of personality comes out in those oversized hardcovers that are like plotted in between. And where with that, and in the same kind of mad sale that Zabi had, I got Batman Face to Face. And I really like Two-Face as a character. I mentioned this in my Joker review that I did earlier this month, but this sounds like it really deals with the complexities of the Two-Face and Harvey Dent character. So Batman's left for a year, and in his place Harvey Dent took over. I'm not really sure in what capacity. I can't really see Harvey Dent being able to disguise himself as Batman when literally half of his face identifies who he is. But there's been a string of murders that have taken place that Batman and Robin then have to investigate, and they always have that suspicion that it might be Two-Face. So it sounds like it's got a great detective angle from it, which is something that I always like seeing in my Batman stories, which a lot of people tend to forget that he is the world's greatest detective. And it just seems like a nice little short read that I'm looking forward to getting into. Another oversized hardcover that I picked up came from my friend who also let me buy the Outcast book. It's Robin Year One. Now they've done this series of Year One, so they've done Nightwing, they've done Batgirl, and they've done Robin, and yeah, I'm gonna now have to get all of them. But I like getting these origin stories, that's why I've got JLA Year One and another book that you're gonna see later on down the line. And I've had a flick through and looked at the art as well, and it reminds me a lot of Tim Sale and Darwin Cook, which are styles that I really now enjoy. So yeah, it does mean that there's 2 more books that I'm gonna have to pick up to complete this set, but I'm happy to do so. I was happy to help out a friend, and this just looks really great. I like the production value of it. So this is obviously the red one, Nightwing's blue, and then Batgirl's purple, so I'm hoping they continue on with stuff like that. But the first couple of omnibuses that we're going to get into are finishing out some collections that I previously started. So the first one should come as a surprise to no one, but it's the Batman Nightfall Omnibus Saga Volume 3. Yeah, I still hate those spines, but I'm glad that I've completed this set. It seemed like they might have been going out of print for a while, but now it seems like there's a healthy stock available everywhere. But besides No Man's Land, this is like the go-to Batman event of the 90s, which is a time period that I actually really enjoyed. I remember enjoying reading this when I was younger. I'm hoping that when I do go back and revisit it, I get those same feelings. But yeah, at least that's one set that is now completely boxed off and finished. The next omnibus that I picked up to finish out a set, again, I have to blame Clarence Price for this because he showed them on his haul and they were absolutely beautiful, but it's the Harley Quinn by Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner Omnibus Volume 3. I managed to get this for an absolute steal, but it kind of got a bit lost in postage for a while, like another book that's coming up. It was about 30 quid and I couldn't really turn it up for that price. I've got the other 2, so this set is now rounded out. If you've watched my last video, which was about DC fandom, you know that I've been kind of getting Harley Quinn fatigue, but with this being like sort of the seminal run for her, hopefully it'll kind of reinvigorate it a bit, like help me get some kind of love for the character back. As well, I just love Amanda Conner's art. It's just so big and beautiful, everything's so cartoony and comical. It reminds me a lot of Ed McGuinness. So the next book that I picked up was one that I've been eyeing up for a while, and that's the Superman Exile Omnibus. Again, this one I ordered months ago, but because it was coming from America, it got delayed on the way over here. And at that point it looked like it was getting scarce in stock everywhere, so I was panicking and thinking that I was never going to get it. This pretty much precedes the Death of Superman Omnibus, which is an omnibus that I've got as well. I just really like this era of comics, so I'm looking forward to it. It's written by Dan Jurgens as well, but Dan Jurgens did one of my favourite Thor runs, so I'm looking forward to jumping into this when I get a chance to. I've already read The Death of Superman, so I'm going to treat this as kind of like a prequel to it, even if there might not be much crossover. Now, if you've been watching this from video 1, you know that this next omnibus is one that I was waiting to be released for a while. It hasn't really been that available in the UK, but I managed to jump on it when Books etc had a limited amount of stock. That is the Infinite Crisis Omnibus 2020 edition. I'm completely in the minority, but I prefer the cover for the second printing than the one to this, but I'm just glad that I've got this in my collection now, because I slept on this both times it was printed before. Like, I was actively collecting comics. Admittedly, I wasn't spending as much money as I do now, but for some reason Infinite Crisis was one that I just kept forgetting to pick up, and then when I heard they were doing like a 3rd release of it, I was like, right, okay, this is the time when I need to get it. It was kind of the same with the Death of Superman Omnibus. I was like, I cannot sleep on this again. But I've read the 7-issue event, and I've also read the Superman Sacrifice mini-series, which is effectively a Wonder Woman story, so I'm quite familiar with this event, and I did enjoy it when I was growing up and when I first read it. It's really heavy, that's why I'm going to have to hold it down here. Gyms haven't been open that long. But I'm interested to read the rest of this to see how the story works as a whole. Now, for just a moment, journey back with me to one of my earlier hauls that I did. I opted not to get the omnibus because honestly I don't think the art's too great in this. Now, if you look closely at that video, you will be able to see me putting my foot directly into my mouth, because even though I said that I don't think Injustice really needs to be in an oversized hardcover format, for some reason I just couldn't help myself and I did buy the the Injustice Omnibus Volume 1. Now the reason why I did this is because after year 5 of the paperback complete collections, it kind of gets a bit confusing when you're collecting Injustice. I just wanted it to be a bit more simple, so I decided to jump onto the omnibus. I'm going to sell some of the paperbacks eventually, and obviously the Volume 2's already been solicited, so I'm quite confident in buying this and realising that it is a good investment to make. What I'm hoping for though is, if you can see the spine, you can see Superman on there sort of perfectly cut off. I really hope that on the second volume they line that up and we get Batman. I love when you get matching aligning spines, that's just kind of my thing. But I have also recently started playing the Injustice games. I'm on Injustice 2 at the moment, and yes, I am completely awful at it. But I've read part of this before, and also people say that it gets better as it goes along, but the fact that this is a comic book based on a video game and it's not awful is enough for me to warrant treating it to the omnibus format. And as you probably already know, I'm based in the UK, so we don't have a shop called Ollie's, but I know that a lot of Americans do. So you've been treated to the $15 Green Lantern Absolute Edition. I didn't want to miss out on that, so with a technique that I mentioned in my Whale Watch, I managed to score the Absolute Green Arrow by Kevin Smith for a little over the $15 that they probably paid as well. Everybody knows at the minute that this is going for cheap, so if somebody's selling it on Amazon for a stupid amount of price and they've got a ton of them in stock, they probably brought a stockpile of them from Ollie's. So don't be afraid to offer them a cheeky price, because you know that they got it for cheap. Obviously in the UK we have to pay a bit more for postage. I kind of use that to my advantage, and I said, like, I'm not trying to just cut you short, but I have to factor in those postage costs. So I got this for a really good deal. I love Absolute Editions as it is. I'm trying to read a bit more Green Arrow. I really love the Jeff Lemire era of that, but I'm glad that I've got this, and it's always better to have an Absolute Edition and not need it than to need an Absolute Edition and not have it, because admittedly, once this stock goes, I reckon this is going to become very difficult to find. And the last Absolute Edition that I brought is one that I also mentioned on Whale Watch, because it went for about 53% off on a website called Books Etc, but that is Absolute Batman Year 1. So that makes 3 books this month that have the subtitle Year 1 in them, but I really love Batman Year 1. It was one of the first books that I read, and I've still got the paperback that I originally had, and I was flicking through it and I was like, you know what, I've got all these stories in oversized hardcover, why don't I treat Batman Year 1 to that same format? Now the reason is because in the UK this retailed for about £100. I just couldn't justify this for £100, because effectively you get the same book twice, which is exactly what they did with Batman the Killing Joke. And I know the page count's going to be a little bit different, but Batman the Killing Joke was about less than 20 quid, yet this was 100 quid. Just didn't add up for me, but I managed to find a great deal for 53% off. It's a story that I really love, and I love David Mazzucchelli's art. My favourite panel is probably that one where he storms the mafia and the lights go out and then you just see him, and his cape's just beautiful. So I'm really glad that I've got this, but admittedly, that's a very lazy back cover. Like, I know it's Year 1, that's the reason why I'm buying it. So that brings us to the Marvel books, and I'm going to start this out similar to what I did with the DC books, and like bring the books up that are just finishing out sets, because the first one is the Shang-Chi Masters of Kung Fu Volume 3. I got this pretty much at the beginning of the month when it was still on sale with cheap comics, but this is the last one that I need. I'm glad that I've got all this set. I'm still not too sure if I'm ever going to read these, but with the way that the license went, I'd rather have them and not need them, and then eventually try to have to sell them, then look into them, realise that I really want them, and then never be able to find them. But I know the way that my brain works as a collector, and I know that my tastes have kind of changed over the years, so it might be the case that a few years from now this is completely something that I want, and I'd just rather have them all in this omnibus format, and they do all look great on a shelf together, I'm not going to lie. The next one that I got with much better binding than the Volume 1 is the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu Volume 2. Again, finishes out this set, and it also finishes out the Shang-Chi kind of arc of the 6 omnibuses. Back covers on this look amazing. It reminds me a lot of the Savage Sword of Conan. This could be something that is very much a favourite of mine, or it could be the worst thing ever for me. I still haven't looked too much into this, but like I said, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Another one to round out the set is the Earth X Trilogy Omega Omnibus. So yes, this is Volume 2 and the final volume of the trilogy. Don't get me started on this again. We don't need that Al Mariachi rant again. But I've had a bit more of a look into it. It seems like Alex Ross only really does the covers. The interior art is a little bit different, but I can kind of let it off. I really like my alternate universe takes, you know, the dystopian future stories, and that's exactly what this sounds like. And it looks like it's got Iron Man 2020, which is one of the dumbest armors that I've ever seen, and that's why I completely love it. But yeah, it is a lot thinner than Volume 1. I wish they could have mapped that out a little bit better, but you know, I've got both the volumes now, so what am I complaining about? I know a lot of people disagreed with this omnibus when it got solicited, but it's genuinely the last one that I need to finish out my omnibus collection for a certain certain character. So I buckled and I brought the Punisher Back to the War Omnibus. So this is like all the early stories of the Punisher. It seems like it's got his first 4-issue miniseries. He and Daredevil are probably my favourite characters in the Marvel Universe. I've got near enough all the Daredevil omnibuses now. Actually, I've got all the Daredevil omnibuses now, so it makes sense that I do the same for Punisher. And it just, every time I was looking at my shelves, I just noticed that this book wasn't there, even though it wasn't something that I really wanted. Yeah, I'm getting into that phase of collecting now where it's merely just to tick boxes. But still, I reckon this is something that I will eventually flick through and, you know, read in bits and bobs here and there. And I'm just glad it's in my collection to finish out my Punisher run. So solicit some new ones, Marvel. The next one is one that I was really looking forward to because I love this character. I've got all of these so far, but it is the Savage Sword of Conan Volume 3. When I got Volume 1 of this for my birthday from my girlfriend last year, it was just beautiful. I just sat there and I just pored over the pages. I wasn't even reading what was happening. The art's so gorgeous in this. You just have to look at the covers on the back. I love everything about this series so far. I'm committed to get all these volumes no matter how many they release, and I'm just glad that this is still coming out on time, on track. I believe that the original Marvel Years Volume 4 should be coming out this month, so there's still going to be a lot of Conan love going about. But yeah, I'm just so glad that I've got this. Even the spines are beautiful. Like, I love the way that this makes me feel like I'm building a library rather than just a collection. And Conan is one of my favourite characters of all of literature. He has been since I was like a kid and I was watching the Arnold film for the first time, so it's just great to be able to dive in and get these sort of classic stories from artists that we know from just doing stuff like Spider-Man and things like that. Now the next one is one that you carefully check the binding of every time you pick it up, but it is the Miles Morales The Ultimate Spider-Man reprint. I had the original volume of this, but when I heard they were doing a reprint, I sold it to someone. I was very honest about the binding, and I pretty much got this for free because of the fact that I ended up selling the original volume. I actually got this from in-stock trades as well. Like, I got it shipped across to the UK, and once it was actually shipped, it got to me within about a week, and it was packaged so well. Like, it was just full of those packing peanuts. I don't think it moved in the box from when it left America to when it got to the UK. But I've read all of the Ultimate Spider-Man run except for this one, so it's kind of nice to be able to have this epilogue to a series that was the first comic that I actually ever brought. I just wish they'd follow it up by actually doing Ultimate Spider-Man completely in omnibus, because for me, an Ultimate Spider-Man's one of the reasons why I rarely do this. I don't tend to buy a volume 1 of something until volume 2 or at least later volumes have been confirmed as coming out. Whereas this, it rounds out the collection quite nicely for me, and I just hope it's a good sign for the future, because this is quite a random reprint when you think about it. Like, yeah, Marvel knew that the binding was bad with the original, but for me, this might be a sign that we are going to get more Ultimate Spider-Man. And from what we've seen so far, it looks like 2021 is going to be the year the Spider-Man reprint, and hopefully some new stuff coming away as well. Now admittedly, you might feel that this haul is a bit lackluster compared to the other ones, and it might be the case that I'm really tired because it's already been such a really long week at work, and you're probably used to there being so many massive whales throughout these videos that this might disappoint you. However, I am going to end this with 2 whales, and one of these is a very big one. The first one, yes, I understand that at some point in the future it's probably going to get a reprint, but I have wanted this book for so long, and at the time when it first came out, I was trying to save for an apartment, so I had no spare money for books, and this one went out of print stupid quick. And that, of course, is the Wolverine and the X-Men Omnibus. I can't believe I managed to get one, and I also got it for about cover price from like a friend who was just selling off some books. It's also in amazing condition. Like, I can't believe I've got one of these books already. This has been a whale for so long that it surprised me that it hasn't got a reprint already, but I can't really risk waiting for one in case Marvel just doesn't do it, because they keep reprinting some really random things as well. I love Wolverine. He's my second favourite X-Men character after Colossus, so I'm just glad that I've got this book, because I remember reading it in single issues, because when it was coming out, that was around the time of like the New 52 and stuff like that. And it was when I was really collecting a lot of single issues. So I've read the majority of this before, and I've loved what I've read already, but now I can finally complete that set. My quest is done. And the last book that I'm going to show you is a very personal whale to me. It's technically not Marvel, although it is now, and my girlfriend somehow managed to find me this one. Yes, I understand that this means that I'm one step closer to a quest that doesn't seem like one that I can finish, but I'm happy to be along the way. My girlfriend managed to surprise me with the Colossal Conan the Cimmerian. Yes, it's technically Dark Horse, and I know that Marvel's probably eventually going to do this, but this book is just so big, it's so cool. Like, I'm just happy that I've got this. I do understand that I still need to get Colossal King Conan, and if I can ever do it, get the Colossal Conan, but I'm just happy that I've got this in the collection. Like, I'm slowly building that Conan library all together, and the art in this just looks phenomenal. But this is one of those that scares me because it's sealed. Now, when I get a whale that's sealed, it's like, can I actually unseal it because of the fact that it's now so rare? I don't know what I dare do, but I'm just happy that this is in the collection. I'm glad it's in a dog pound. But those are all the books that I picked up in the month of August, and I know that this might not be as big as you thought it was or as you believed it to be. But then again, it's getting colder, so that kind of works hand in hand. It may even be the case that next month's even smaller than this one because of the fact that I've got like service charges, car tax, MOT, insurance. And additionally, I don't know about anybody else, but it feels like I've kind of brought everything that I needed to catch up on, so now it's just the fact that I'm waiting for new releases. But at the start of this video, I did mention that we've got the Mad Dog Comic Haul competition, and we've already had one winner so far. If you want to be featured into the beginning of next month's video so that the 3 people who watch these videos can see your haul, all you have to do is put a picture of your haul, tag me in it on Instagram and be following me at Mad Dog Comics, and put the hashtag Mad Dog Haul. Obviously, just make sure you get it submitted before I film the next haul, so you've got enough time. But if you don't want to enter that competition, tell me what some of the books were that you picked up this month. Leave it in the comment section below and we can discuss it further. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't like this video, why did you get this far? Please subscribe if you haven't already. Remember to click that bell notification. I'm still trying to figure out something that I can do to celebrate 1,000 subscribers whenever it is that we get to that. And check out some of my links. I'm always putting up comic content there. If you do want to support the channel, I'm not going to ask you to subscribe to a Patreon or any kind of membership or something like that. All I do ask is that you treat yourself to a book and just use the Amazon affiliate link down below. I can't see any of your details. It doesn't increase the price. It just means that I can eventually upgrade the camera that I've got now. But hopefully you'll join me up for whale watch in the next couple of days. But until then, just make sure that you stay safe, keep reading, and keep barking all your mad dogs, and I'll see you at the next video.